Metropolitan Manila is a cacophony of busyness, traffic jammed.
Now building a backup capital city.
The Philippines has always revolved around one city. For centuries, almost every major decision, every economic opportunity, every political event, and nearly every national institution has pointed toward one place, Metro Manila. It is the country's beating heart, the center of power, and the face it presents to the world. But as millions continue to pour into the capital every year, that very success has become its greatest burden. Traffic has become legendary. Flooding remains a constant threat. Land is becoming increasingly scarce. Housing prices continue to soar, and businesses face mounting challenges simply trying to keep pace with a city that has grown faster than anyone could have imagined. Now, just over 80 kilometers to the north, another city is quietly preparing for a very different future. A city with wide roads that seem almost oversized. A city where skyscrapers are rising from what used to be military runways. A city designed not around the congestion of yesterday, but around the possibilities of tomorrow. A city with one of Southeast Asia's largest airports, a booming business district, and enough room to grow for decades. This is Clark. Once known primarily as a massive American military base, Clark has transformed into one of the Philippines' fastest-growing economic centers. Billions of dollars are flowing into infrastructure. International companies are establishing operations. New residential communities are expanding across former airfields, and one of the country's most ambitious railway projects will soon connect Clark directly to Metro Manila. But some planners, economists, and policymakers believe Clark could become something even bigger. Not just another booming city, not simply an alternative business district, but a true second capital of the Philippines. That may sound like an extraordinary claim. After all, Manila has been the nation's capital for centuries. Its government institutions, historical landmarks, and financial centers are deeply rooted in the country's identity. Moving away from that seems almost impossible. Yet history has shown that many nations eventually outgrow their original capitals. Countries like Brazil built Brasilia from scratch to shift development inland. Malaysia developed Putrajaya to ease pressure on Kuala Lumpur. South Korea created Sejong City to decentralize government functions. Indonesia is now constructing Nusantara as its future capital because Jakarta has become increasingly overcrowded and vulnerable to environmental challenges. The Philippines faces many of the same problems, and Clark may already possess many of the ingredients needed for a similar transformation. Before Clark became one of the Philippines' fastest-growing economic hubs, it was one of the most important military bases in the Pacific. Its history dates back to the early 1900s, when the United States established Fort Stotzenburg during the American colonial period. Over time, it evolved into Clark Air Base, serving as a key strategic hub during World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. For decades, it functioned like a self-contained city, complete with hospitals, schools, housing, shopping centers, and one of Asia's busiest military airfields. Thousands of American personnel and Filipino workers lived and worked there, while the base fueled the economy of Pampanga and nearby provinces by creating jobs and supporting local businesses. Everything changed in 1991 when Mount Pinatubo erupted, covering central Luzon in volcanic ash and severely damaging the airbase. Just months later, the Philippine Senate voted against extending the U.S. military's stay, prompting the American withdrawal. Almost overnight, Clark's future was thrown into doubt. Thousands of jobs disappeared, businesses suffered, and the once thriving military complex was left largely abandoned. What had been one of America's most significant overseas bases became a symbol of uncertainty, setting the stage for one of the most remarkable urban transformations in Philippine history. Many believed Clark's best days were over, but instead of allowing the enormous property to decay, the Philippine government made a bold decision. Rather than preserving Clark as a relic of the past, it would be reinvented for the future. The former military base was converted into the Clark Special Economic Zone, managed by the Clark Development Corporation. The goal was ambitious: transform military facilities into a globally competitive center for business, logistics, manufacturing, aviation, and technology. The transition wasn't immediate. Progress came slowly during the early years as investors remained cautious. Infrastructure required upgrades. Roads needed modernization. Old military buildings had to be repurposed or replaced entirely. But gradually, momentum began to build. Factories opened, business process outsourcing companies arrived, hotels welcomed tourists, logistics firms recognized Clark's strategic location near major highways, ports, and airports. Unlike Metro Manila, where development often struggled against limited space and aging infrastructure, Clark had something incredibly rare: room. Thousands of hectares of available land, wide avenues, carefully planned districts, space for industries, universities, technology parks, residential communities, and future expansion without the crippling congestion found in older cities. Urban planners often describe Clark as one of the few places in the Philippines where large-scale development can still happen in an organized way. Instead of squeezing new skyscrapers between aging neighborhoods, entire districts can be designed from the ground up. That advantage is becoming increasingly valuable as Metro Manila reaches its physical limits. Today, Clark no longer resembles the military base it once was. Modern office towers rise where aircraft once parked. Luxury hotels welcome international visitors. Industrial parks produce goods for global markets. Convention centers host international events. Sports facilities built for the Southeast Asian Games continue attracting competitions and visitors. And perhaps most importantly, Clark has become one of the country's biggest infrastructure priorities. Billions of pesos are being invested not because of what Clark is today, but because of what policymakers believe it could become tomorrow. A city capable of sharing the enormous responsibilities that have rested almost entirely on Metro Manila for generations. And this transformation is only beginning, because the projects now under construction could reshape not just Clark, but the future geography of the entire Philippines. If Clark's story were only about replacing an old military base with office buildings, it would already be considered a remarkable success. But that isn't what makes the city so fascinating. The real story lies in the scale of what is being built today and the role Clark is expected to play in the decades ahead. For decades, the Philippines has concentrated its government, businesses, universities, and transportation networks in Metro Manila. While this fueled economic growth, it also led to severe congestion, overcrowding, and mounting pressure on public services. Heavy reliance on a single metropolitan area also makes the country's economy more vulnerable to disasters and major disruptions. To address this imbalance, Clark is being developed as a second major economic and urban center. A key part of this vision is improving connectivity. Through massive investments in roads, expressways, and transport infrastructure, the government is making Clark more accessible and positioning it as a future national hub. The North Luzon Expressway and the Subic-Clark-Tarlac Expressway already place Clark at the intersection of some of the country's most important road networks. Traveling between Metro Manila and Clark has become significantly easier than it was just 2 decades ago. But highways alone are not enough. The real game changer is rail. For years, one of the biggest weaknesses of Philippine transportation has been its limited railway network. Unlike neighboring countries, where high-capacity rail systems connect major cities, much of Luzon has relied almost entirely on roads. That is beginning to change. The North-South Commuter Railway is one of the largest transportation projects in Philippine history. Once completed, it will connect Clark directly with Metro Manila through a modern railway system designed to dramatically reduce travel times. Imagine boarding a train in Clark and arriving in the capital without spending hours stuck in traffic. For workers, business travelers, tourists, and investors, that kind of connectivity changes everything. Instead of viewing Clark as a distant city, people will begin to see it as an extension of the country's main economic corridor. Distance becomes less important when accessibility improves. This is exactly how many of the world's great metropolitan regions evolved. Cities that once seemed separate gradually became interconnected through efficient transportation, allowing businesses and people to move freely between them. Clark is heading in that direction. Then there is the airport. If there is one piece of infrastructure that symbolizes Clark's ambitions more than anything else, it is Clark International Airport. Unlike Metro Manila's main airport, which has struggled for years with limited capacity and congestion, Clark was built with room to expand. Its modern passenger terminal reflects a completely different philosophy. High ceilings inspired by the surrounding mountains, spacious check-in halls, efficient passenger flow, and the ability to accommodate millions more travelers each year all signal that Clark is preparing for future demand, rather than merely reacting to present problems. More importantly, the airport sits on an enormous property with significant space for additional runways, cargo facilities, maintenance centers, and aviation-related industries. That makes Clark uniquely positioned to become one of Southeast Asia's major aviation hubs. Airports today are no longer just places where airplanes land and take off. Around the world, they have become powerful economic engines. Businesses want to locate near international airports because they simplify logistics, attract global talent, and improve access to overseas markets. Hotels, convention centers, warehouses, research facilities, and manufacturing plants often cluster around these transportation gateways. Clark possesses all the ingredients for that kind of ecosystem. The airport is supported by surrounding industrial zones, logistics centers, commercial districts, and large parcels of undeveloped land that remain available for future projects. This combination is incredibly rare. In many older cities, airports are surrounded by dense urban neighborhoods that limit expansion. Clark doesn't face the same constraints. It has the luxury of planning decades ahead, and planning is exactly what distinguishes Clark from many rapidly growing cities. Instead of allowing development to spread randomly, planners have attempted to organize growth into specialized districts. Business parks, industrial estates, residential communities, educational institutions, recreational spaces, and government facilities are being integrated into a long-term vision rather than emerging through uncontrolled expansion. Of course, no city ever develops perfectly. Unexpected challenges always arise. Markets change, governments change, economic conditions shift. But having a master plan provides something invaluable: direction. Investors appreciate certainty. Companies making billion-dollar decisions want confidence that roads, utilities, public transportation, and zoning policies will continue supporting their long-term operations. Clark offers that confidence in ways few other Philippine cities can. That confidence is already attracting a remarkable variety of industries. Manufacturing remains one of Clark's strongest sectors. Electronics, automotive components, medical equipment, and export-oriented factories continue expanding within its economic zones. Business process outsourcing has also found a home here, as companies look beyond Metro Manila for skilled workers and lower operating costs. Clark has become an increasingly attractive destination for call centers, technology firms, and shared service operations. The city is also positioning itself as a hub for innovation. Universities, research institutions, startup incubators, and technology parks are gradually becoming part of the region's economic landscape. While Clark may not yet rival the innovation ecosystems of Singapore or Seoul, the foundations are steadily being laid. Tourism adds another layer to its growth. Visitors arriving through Clark International Airport have easy access to destinations across central and northern Luzon, the mountain landscapes of the Cordillera region, the beaches of Zambales, the heritage sites of Pampanga, and countless natural attractions are all within reach. As tourism expands, so do hotels, restaurants, entertainment complexes, and convention facilities. Each new sector reinforces the others. Better transportation attracts businesses. Businesses create jobs. Jobs increase demand for housing. Housing supports retail. Retail encourages more investment. The cycle feeds itself. This is how major cities are born. And perhaps the most significant advantage Clark possesses is something many people overlook. It is not trying to replace Metro Manila overnight. Instead, it is complementing it. Rather than competing directly with the capital, Clark is gradually absorbing functions that Manila can no longer handle efficiently. New industries, expanding logistics operations, international flights, manufacturing facilities, and even some government activities can relocate without forcing the country's historic capital to surrender its central role. That kind of balanced development could reshape the Philippines for generations. But building infrastructure is one thing. Building a true second capital is something else entirely. Because creating another center of national importance involves far more than roads, airports, and skyscrapers. It requires political commitment, public confidence, and a willingness to rethink how an entire country is organized. And that may prove to be Clark's greatest challenge. The biggest obstacle standing between Clark and becoming the Philippines' second capital isn't a lack of infrastructure or investment. It's history. For more than 4 centuries, Manila has been the nation's political, cultural, and economic heart. Government agencies, foreign embassies, major corporations, and historic institutions are deeply rooted there, making any shift both complex and expensive. Yet signs of decentralization are already emerging. Several government offices have expanded operations in Clark, while new business districts continue attracting companies looking to escape Metro Manila's rising costs and congestion. As more people choose to live and work in central Luzon, the city's influence naturally grows. Still, becoming a true second capital doesn't necessarily mean replacing Manila. Instead, Clark could evolve into a complementary national center, hosting key government functions, international conferences, major logistics operations, and strategic industries, while Manila remains the constitutional capital. That model has worked in several countries, where political power and economic activity are shared across multiple cities rather than concentrated in one. Clark has something few cities can claim: room to dream big. With modern infrastructure, a world-class airport, expanding rail connections, and a carefully planned urban landscape, it is being built for the future instead of struggling with the limitations of the past. Whether Clark officially becomes the Philippines' second capital remains uncertain. But one thing is becoming increasingly clear: It is no longer just a former airbase or a growing business hub. It is emerging as one of the country's most important cities, one capable of reshaping how the Philippines grows in the 21st century. The question is no longer whether Clark will matter. The real question is just how central its role in the nation's future will become.